Paul McGuinness.
That's a hard bunch of people to follow. Many things have been said already that I absolutely agree with and might have said myself. I think it's, the theme of this conference, which I have found extraordinarily interesting and informative. The theme really is that, there has, in the digital age, been an enormous change. What has happened is that many, many ingenious people have built multi-billion-dollar industries on the back of free music. And some of them are accepting their responsibilities to contribute and reward the makers of that music, and some of them aren't. So there's a room full of people here. Some of you are device makers, some of you are in the mobile distribution business. There are ISP people here, I'm sure. There are music producers. There are people running what used to be called labels, and I suppose are now called recorded music companies, dealing with the biggest crisis that industry has ever had to face. And some of those people are dealing with the problems fairly, and some of the people and corporations are dealing cynically and without any sense of fairness or justice with those difficulties. At the beginning of the conference, I did some naming of the guilty parties. I don't need to do that again. But that is what I will take away from this, and what I hope you will all take away from this, is a sense of a wrong that needs to be righted, and that those industries that are actually continuing to destroy the recorded music business must be identified. They must be brought into line, either by legislation or by consent. And music has to start getting paid for again. The internet can learn an awful lot from the mobile industry. That's a clear contrast. But the other thing that I've noticed in the discussion of content as it is now perceived is that the artist seems to have been largely forgotten in the presentation of that content, and that disturbs me a lot. I've received a lot of presentations from a lot of communications companies, tech companies over the years, and I'm sorry to say that the thing that characterizes most of those presentations, what most of those presentations have in common, is the extremely poor creative quality of those presentations. And somebody alluded to it earlier on. We saw a very poor ad before this session. I forget who it was by. But it was all about the telco. Unless in the digital age we find a way of including the artists and indeed the labels in the same way as great labels used to have great art departments and great musical artists used to produce great sleeves. Remember sleeves like the Sgt. Pepper sleeve. Remember early Bob Dylan sleeves. Those sort of sleeves came from an environment where the visual consciousness and the musical consciousness of label and artists were in a proper way integrated. I'm sorry to say I see very little sign of that in the digital space, and I would warn all of you in that digital area to focus again on making the presentation of music as good as it used to be in the days of vinyl and CD. That's all.
Thank you, Paul.